Gracias por la pregunta.
¿Por acá?
Colombia, parceros.
Ahora, ¿cómo?
De Jujuy.
Mendoza, por acá tenemos
De
Mendoza.
Tandil, si no traje Tandil, perdón, si no traje Salátelo. Neuquén.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here. This is my first time in this city, and so I've had a really good time so far. She and her team were experimenting on corn plants, and they found that young corn roots generate this clicking noise at around 220 hertz, which is so weird. And they said by suspending the roots in water, they would play a continuous sound that was around 220 hertz, and the roots would turn towards the sound. And then I thought, well, I can't just stick the microcontroller into the plant. That would look really unattractive, and it would not be super waterproof. So I thought, what if there was a little tree house in every pot plant that had the microcontroller in it, and then the tree houses were responsible for communicating. And that there is the unencrypted version, so that's just a very short one, but it's that PL00 value. That's what I was going out with. So the mother tree, which you can access at mumtree.local on the Raspberry Pi, this is a Node.js app I made called Electric.io, and this is sort of showing all of their stats too. So I can log in really quickly on my phone or something like that to have a look at it.
And then I got bored, Christmas 2016, and started shouting on my laptop. And it wasn't out of frustration, it was for voice control. There we go. Turn off lamps.
Chair lamp has been turned off, TV lamp has been turned off, couch lamp has been turned off.
Voy a decir que la codebase ideal es algo completamente subjetivo. Es algo que se tiene que adaptar al equipo y no al revés. Por ejemplo, un equipo está desarrollando una aplicación con la típica arquitectura cliente-servidor ¿Pueden estar en dos repositorios separados? ¿Sí? Es perfectamente válido esto. En un repositorio tenés el server con su package JSON, sus dependencias y todo lo necesario para, no sé, deployarse en algún servicio de AWS. Y en el otro repositorio, el frontend, con todo lo necesario para transpilar, modificar y hacer esas cosas que nos gusta hacer al JavaScript antes de mandar a algún lugar. Hay que encontrar un balance entre el esfuerzo que esto implica versus el esfuerzo de andar manejando varios repositorios. Lo bueno es que el esfuerzo del tooling es constante, es decir, una vez que uno lo implementa ya te queda preparado para muchos módulos, mientras que el esfuerzo de manejar muchos repositorios crece exponencialmente. El punto en el cual conviene moverse a un monorepo depende del equipo, la verdad, es subjetivo. Pero lo bueno es que hoy en día existe tooling estándar que nos permite bajar ese gap. Para mí, en mi opinión, ya el caso más simple de cliente-servidor justifica un monorepo, ya que haya dos módulos. Esto también es una decisión a futuro, pues el monorepo nos deja servido en bandeja la creación de nuevos módulos.
Our main thread in Node.js. And every time when garbage collector needs to collect garbage and clear memory, application code is suspended for that. But perfectly understanding the problem, we a team made incremental collection to block a server for a shorter period. And they achieve a higher performance in Node with that. But collection still performed in a main thread. And they gradually, with a team, offload all those operations to separate threads, to V8 thread pool. All those solutions are work in main thread and block our server. So they make performance overhead. And there is a solution, I guess you know, to offload part of logic of agents to a separate process, and just to send from the main thread a raw event with raw data, we send via queue to that process. And in that process, we do format, we do aggregation, and we handle transport logic to database, to server, for example.
We're going to start by the powerful algorithm. So for this one, I decided to use a deep convolutional generative adversarial network. What the fuck? So yeah, like the name is really long, I get it, but basically it's just an algorithm that's capable of generating new images from actually existing ones. Like we're just gonna feed him a bunch of images and he's gonna spit out something that's inspired by, or like, it's like a mixture of all of them. And like, because most of the time, if you see that there's like a huge blur or something that you can't really understand, you need to tweak some of the weights in the neural networks. The weights are basically the algorithm's way to interpret whatever you think is more important. It's like you giving priority to the algorithm by saying like, hey, I want you to prioritize color, for example, or I want you to prioritize some other things. The thing about machine learning is you don't really know what it's doing. It's pretty much like a black box. So you just have to sort of like try blindly to adjust it. And at some point it really falls together, it falls into place, but it takes a while. I think we have to get used to a future where machines can also do creative work. Because like when we talk about machine learning, we have this thing of saying like, yeah, it's fine, but machines are really good at calculating things, but they're not good in creating. That's just us humans. Well, we're reaching a point where that's not actually true. Because like we get machines that do creative work, such as this one. We can get machines to produce paintings. We can get machines to produce sounds and videos. So I think we really need to get used to a future where that's also going to be capable of doing in a machine.
So I walked into the room, and the room was absolutely full. It was an incredible sight. And the English word for this is sausage fest, and you don't need a lot of imagination to understand what that means. I was the only woman in the room. And, you know, okay, fair enough. If you're a man in the audience, and you kind of try to step into my shoes for this one. So you're in a room, there's no one like you, and everybody seems like they know so much more than you do. And I felt so nervous, and I felt like all my questions were stupid, so I didn't ask any, and I couldn't really socialize because I am an introvert. So I probably missed out on a lot of really productive conversations that I got to have with time as I became part of the work performance community. My problem is that I'm white, I'm young, I'm straight, I am a female, and I was born like that, and I'm a European citizen, and I don't have to show my key card to anyone when I enter my apartment building, and I didn't get asked to balance a binary search tree in immigration. They asked me for my hotel address, I totally failed at that. So I am living the dream, and the problem is that not everybody's as lucky as me, because today still someone's skin color, someone's gender, someone's religion, someone's disability, someone's geography and class and age can give them more or fewer opportunities for success. And some people have to work 10 times as hard to get to the same place in our industry. Among other things, Damore was arguing that because women are biologically and psychologically different from men, this explains why there are fewer female software engineers and why women are less likely to succeed in the industry. And I was already feeling like a fraud, so this memo and a lot of the internet discussion around it made me realize that the tech industry can be an unwelcoming place, and I'm fortunate, so what is it like for others? And Stella and Cooper have gender parity. Every guy has a secretary. So you can't even take these statistics at face value, because you always have to ask extra questions to find out how the balance really tips. Like the most common thing you should ask is, what about the pay gap? So in the UK, 9 out of 10 women work for a company that pays them less for the same job. And half of men work for companies that pay them 10% or more for the same job. Not enough minorities are applying. We hear this all the time. So ask yourself why and then fix it. Good place to start, job descriptions, right? You leave out stuff like, we are hiring Node.js and you have to be a calm. And yeah, sure, you have a long bullet point list that feels natural, but you have to understand that that list implicitly selects for the majority. And the majority will apply when they meet a lower percentage of your criteria. It's like 60%. Minorities will only apply when they meet most, sometimes all those criteria.
2006-2013, yo había implementado esto en un montón de proyectos, de diferentes tamaños, diferentes use cases, escenarios, etc. Es como que ya veía la matrix de este problema. ¿Sí? Eso creo que es una buena forma de visualizarlo. Entendía el problema de lleno. Quizás a algunos les pasa eso, ¿vieron? Que cuando pasan mucho tiempo con un problema, sienten que lo entienden muy bien. Bueno, eso me pasaba a mí con Identity. Yo lo entendía muy bien el tema. Entonces sabía cuáles eran los problemas, los casos de uso, los puntos de fricción, las soluciones que habían para ese problema. Lo sabía muy de lleno. Y esta fue para mí la primera realización, fue invertir esas 10.000 horas en algo y tomárselo a pecho. Y esto quizás a ustedes, ¿cómo lo trasladan esto a su vida cotidiana? Hoy en su trabajo seguramente están haciendo cosas que van resolviendo, que las van resolviendo siempre. Son cosas que las van viendo, si se meten y les gusta. Bueno, vayan pensando que eso puede ser a futuro algo que lo puedan generalizar, una vez que lo entendieron muy bien, lo puedan generalizar y lo conviertan en un producto. Hay millones de casos de eso. La segunda cosa que les quería comentar tiene que ver con el timing. Si yo les hubiese dicho a ustedes, hubiésemos hecho esta conferencia hace 10 años y les hubiese preguntado, che, ¿me quieren dar sus usuarios y passwords en sus aplicaciones? Yo los guardo y tranquilos, quédense tranquilos que yo me encargo de todo eso. Es muy posible que muchos me digan que no. Si nosotros hubiésemos empezado antes del 2010, posiblemente no hubiésemos tenido la atracción que pudimos tener en 2013, o quizás no hubiésemos quedado sin plata antes de poder demostrar que tenemos un negocio. Y si hubiese empezado en 2015, posiblemente hubiese sido muy tarde, porque ya hubiese habido otra empresa, como ya estaba Stripe, Twilio, otra que resuelve este problema. Entonces es como que, justito ahí, el coraje. Y si alguna vez pensaron en dejar la empresa donde trabajan y hacer una compañía, esta es un poco la sensación, por lo menos la mía. cuando hice eso en el 2012 que me fui. Es como que estás saltando a algo que no sabes si vas a llegar o no. Con nuestra propia plata o con nuestro propio trabajo, que era hacer consultoría, hicimos en nuestro primer año, digamos, logramos pasar nuestro primer año y construir el producto mientras hacíamos algunas otras cosas. Eugenio, que es mi socio, que vive en Estados Unidos, trabajaba en Microsoft y la esposa escribió esta nota. En el momento que dejó Microsoft, le puso: mira, si no hay un mango en 6 meses, te volvés a Microsoft. Tiene pibes, o sea, no era joda. Gente con la que trabajaste antes que conoces y sabes cómo trabaja, gente que otros recomiendan, y esto. O sea, acá también se encuentra mucha gente que está pensando lo mismo que estás pensando vos, los mismos intereses. Pasá 10.000 horas con algún problema, obsesionate con ese problema, fíjate que estás resolviendo el problema en el momento correcto, tienes que tener un poquito de coraje para saltar, un poquito de suerte también, ¿por qué no? Y un gran equipo.
This is a mistake I did a lot when I was starting and coding JavaScript, calling a function without new, and then trying to figure out where the bar is, and actually it wasn't the global scope because I didn't call the function with new. So take this in consideration. In strict mode, the this variable doesn't carry implicitly the value. So it means if I call this function as it is, I will receive undefined, which is the default value of this in this example. The method bind permanently binds the function to the first given parameter, return a new function with this bind to the first parameter. And error functions works a little bit different. It keeps the value of the lexical this of the surrounding context. Bind operator. So the bind operator has introduced a new token, which is this double column, and which acts as a syntax sugar for the two previous use cases. It introduced the two forms of this operator, the unary operator and binary operator. The unary operator just bounds the provided reference, the base of the provided reference as this variable. In the binary syntax creates a function such as the left side of this operator is bound as this of the right side. Pipeline operator. Okay, so the pipeline operator is a syntax sugar for those use cases. It creates a way for to do a streamline of a chain of functions in a functional manner. It is backwards compatible and provides an alternative for extendability in prototypes. We have a way to achieve partial application right now in ECMAScript, which is achievable by the function.prototype.bind. And it's tricky because oftentimes we think that the bind just works for bind the context, but it the bind method accepts more parameters, which is the first one is the context, and the following parameter are the list of arguments that we want to bind to that function. What about currying? Yes, we can achieve a partial application with currying, although we can do this. Currying is very different. It's different than partial application because currying is a function that, given a function with arity n, it returns another function with arity n minus 1.
And in fact, if you look at the ECMAScript specification for property lookup, it's this really long list of 8 steps. Well, 8 steps is not really long, but actually every single one of those entries has 1 or 2 other lists that are just as long. So just doing object.x is this like maze through the JavaScript specification of figuring out what to do. And of course, a compiler who compiles JavaScript has to follow the ECMAScript specification. So it's really the compiler who has to do this maze of instructions from the specification every time you say console.log. Modern engines have another trick. They all have at least two compilers. They have a baseline compiler, and then they have a second optimizing compiler. So the optimizing compiler, its job is to compile so-called hot functions, functions that have been executed a lot and that we speculate will be executed lots of more times in the future. The optimizing compiler recompiles those hot functions, and it's using, when it's recompiling them, even more information that we were able to collect when we executed this function in the past. And so by using this information, the machine code the optimizing compiler spits out is very specific to a certain speculation about the input, but it's also very fast. Information is collected that this prime function is being called a lot, so at some point the prime function is passed to the optimizing compiler, and that's where the spikes are coming from, because now the compiler has to recompile the function. That takes a lot of time. And then once that's done, that's when you have this massive speed up and you're almost at C++ level.
A las chicas también. Para allá. Sí, verdad, tú fuiste la remera. Mira, dicho, me dijo, no me diste la remera. Dame, por favor, la pelota. Ella me amenazó.
Zarra mágica. Tenemos acá auriculares Bluetooth.
Auriculares Bluetooth, por parte de nuestros amigos de MuleSoft. ¿Quién los quiere? ¿Tú? ¿Quién los quiere? ¿Quién? Ah, bueno, ella. Ganó. Ahí estamos. Tú fuiste la que contestaste la pregunta más difícil. Bien.
Y el segundo premio, un iPhone 7.
¡Wow! No quieren que no me iPhone.
No, soy malo. No, tenemos acá un parlante Bluetooth.
Un parlante Bluetooth. Muchísimas gracias por su valentía. Sigan disfrutando de la conferencia.
¿Qué beneficios puedo conseguir yo con las extensiones nativas? Bueno, podríamos integrar nuestra aplicación con código C++, C o C++, Legacy. Podríamos integrar nuestra aplicación con librerías ya implementadas en C o C++, que están recontra testeadas, que tienen mucha mejora de performance y que funcionan muy bien. Y por ahí que tienen, no sé, 30 años en el mundo del software y no hay necesidad de probar otra cosa. Ese es un ejemplo. Nosotros podríamos acceder al core de Node sin usar API. Pero los beneficios que nos da usar API es que nos provee independencia del runtime. Es decir, ya sea Node, que viene con el V8, o ya sea Node Chakra, por ejemplo, que usa Chakra, a nosotros no nos va a interesar desde nuestra extensión nativa, va a ser completamente independiente. Casi salto por el balcón 25 veces. Node.js es single thread, ¿no? Es lo que hablé al principio. ¿Y eso qué hace? Es a la memoria que nosotros tenemos, la memoria que está usando la protege y no puede ser accedida por ningún otro. Y la función anónima que yo estoy pasando al worker eventualmente es una función, es un objeto JavaScript. Por ende, estoy intentando acceder a un objeto JavaScript desde mi worker. Por ende, cementerio fault. No quiero transmitir que hay que ir todos corriendo a native extensions. Es algo que es recontra potente, pero tenés un montón de responsabilidades que manejar.
¡Chris! ¡Chris! ¿Ya se lo dieron? Ah,
le dio el premio.
Gracias. Debería estar el año que viene acá. Bueno, vamos a hablar de nuestro próximo speaker.
Pana, ¿vos también estás desnudo acá adentro? Ok, no importa.
Guarda la mano. Yo estoy más gordito, mira. Y bueno, hay que disfrutarlo, si la gente lo pide, hace cazar.
Esto es una mezcla de Jurassic Park con Power Rangers, ¿no?
Sí, una cosa así.
I think Node.js has been an experiment for way too long. It is about time that we figure out ways to integrate Node.js and the web platform more tightly coupled, more tightly together, and there are already work going on into this direction. Not because we have feelings about JavaScript, and not because we think how it should work, just because for the sake of our users. JavaScript isn't easy to get into language, but it gets hobbled down by all the craft that we add on, using all these libraries and all these different API structures. So any way we can make that easier is always going to be a great win. So I have a few more things that I never going to have enough time to go into, but if you want to learn more about it, there's a bunch of links about the magical future when all these things that I was talking about actually converge into the actual JavaScript security. Currently, we are hoping that we are dancing on the edge of the event horizon or something like that. As a shameless plug, I do hardware stuff with JavaScript. If you want more reasons why you should love JavaScript, you can do hardware stuff with JavaScript. So talk to me about JavaScript hardware stuff. And almost exactly 3 years ago, I was at speaking at NodeConf EU. I was talking about how you could use Rust, the programming language, to generate binary modules. And at some point in my presentation, I told people, eventually you realize that the language itself is just a tool. Whether you write Rust or JavaScript, whether you create WebAssembly code, or whether you write PHP or Java, it doesn't matter as long as you choose the correct tool for the correct use case. And the only way you can choose the correct tool if you know that the tool exists. So you are here to learn about the existence of tools that you are going to be able to use. Don't hold on too much to all your preconceptions and all your tools. What would have happened to humanity if we would still be using tools from the Stone Age or Bronze Age? We evolve our tools to fit our new.
Es el final del primer día de la NodeConf, así que estuvo bueno, ¿no? Estuvo bastante interesante, fueron charlas muy buenas.
The garbage collector of Node.js, the more memory Node.js consumes, it tries harder and harder to get this memory free somehow. So it runs constantly. The problem, and why the GC duration is an important metric, is that while the garbage collector, and there are two in Node.js, one faster one and a slower one, so the fast one runs more frequently and the slower one just sometimes. So while this garbage collection is running, the process will halt. Globals are not a way to solve this problem for Node.js. What you actually need is, you need a way to, for each transaction or each request you're having, and Node.js, if you think about it, is basically always, if you look at Express, it's a cascade of callbacks. So it's incoming HTTP requests and then things are happening. It's callback after callback. You have to get this context in each callback. So, and that's a pretty complex problem to solve, so you have to do something like that. In our code base, we did something, we created something like a stack for that, so you have pop, push, whatever, what you have on the stack. And then we, here as you see in green, for instance, if we want to patch set timeout, we replace the real set timeout with set timeout substitute function, and the substitute function will wrap now the callback of set timeout and will put the current context into this code. And that's easy, right? The problem is, and that would be really easy, if you want to do monitoring, you have to do this in Node.js for each and every library and each and every function that somehow passes the event loop. This means if you have MongoDB for every find and find all, for everything that's going on in Node.js, you have to write a dedicated instrumentation to get this properly working. So that's a pretty challenging task, and of course, and luckily, there are tools for that that solve parts of this problem. So we talked about this whole DevOps thing and all those principles behind that, and you would think that this problem is also somehow solved, and there is a common standard and one common tool to solve that. And the good and the bad news is there are several tools and standards that can be used to do tracing in your application. First of all, there is Open Tracing. It's a CNCF project, and the interesting thing about it, it defines just an API. So it just tells you how your tracing code should behave. So you have to write the tracing code basically on your own. What's cool about it is that many Kubernetes projects, for instance, are having an interface where you can then throw your own tracing logic into it and then do what with the tracing that this thing gives you what you want. It has no UI or backend, it's just the standard.
Entonces, ¿qué es Deno? Es un runtime que utiliza TypeScript, utiliza la última versión de V8, es bastante moderno en ese sentido. No busca ser explícitamente compatible con Node.js, no hay npm, no hay package.json, es decir, es bastante distinto en ese sentido. El prototipo inicial utilizaba Golang como su backend, es decir, así como en Node.js tenemos este código, lo que vimos previamente, hecho en C++, en el caso de Deno, eso estuvo escrito en el principio en Golang. Vimos ahí algún código JavaScript, luego se llama a los bindings, entonces de la misma forma Deno hace lo mismo. Tiene este archivo que es TypeScript, este archivo define qué va a ocurrir, etc. Y bueno, eso es lo que pasa en el lado de Deno. En el lado de Golang tenemos este código Go, que es el que finalmente hace la llamada al sistema y finalmente hace esa función Open POSIX, que es lo que buscamos. La parte interesante está aquí, que la forma en la que llamamos a estos bindings en Go no es algo tradicional, es decir, en C++ o en C, y pueden cargar una librería e invocar directamente una función. Por ejemplo, estoy haciendo un programa en C, puedo leer un archivo directamente llamando a funciones POSIX, por ejemplo. En este caso hay como una capa adicional entre Go y V8, y esta capa es básicamente un sistema PubSub de mensajería. Entonces del lado de V8 hay suscripciones, del lado de Golang hay suscripciones, y también hay funciones que permiten publicar mensajes al otro lado. Estoy haciendo front-end development, por ejemplo, y trato de instalar o instalo puede ser un programa para un transpiler o alguna cosa de esas, y todos esos programas tienen acceso a tu red, tienen acceso a tu sistema de archivos. ¿Y cómo puedo limitar eso? ¿Cómo puedo limitar que un módulo o que los 1000 módulos o cientos de módulos que uso en mi proyecto accedan a tal o cual cosa? O sea, la idea sería dar seguridad por ese lado. ¿Verdad? Por eso esta obsesión, vamos a decir, por auditar las llamadas del sistema y controlarlas minuciosamente. Primero estaba en Go, luego se pasó a Rust y actualmente sigue estando en Rust. Probablemente eso no cambie. Entonces, estos serían los puntos principales, ¿verdad? En primer lugar, se está utilizando Go. Go tiene un garbage collector. Es un lenguaje que maneja la memoria de forma dinámica, más allá que tiene características muy interesantes de concurrencia y todo eso que sabemos, tiene esta limitación. Y algo que, por los comentarios de la comunidad y la discusión que surgió, algo que llamó la atención fue que tal vez no sería tan bueno tener un runtime que tenga dos garbage collectors corriendo al mismo tiempo, es decir, el de V8 y el de Go, y ese fue uno de los motivos, uno de los motivos principales. Por otro lado, cuando interoperas Go con otros sistemas, otros programas nativos, es muy difícil pasar punteros de Go al lado nativo, por ejemplo, y eso hace que de repente tengas que copiar memoria muchas veces, podrías gastar más memoria de lo normal, etc. O sea, la forma que se utilizaba para pasar los mensajes estaba construida sobre protocol buffers, y como protocol buffers usa serialización, o sea, es un sistema de serialización finalmente, eso implica hacer memory allocations, y por ese motivo se decidió migrar a flat buffers, que es interesante para consumir menos memoria. Hay planes de hacer que sea compatible con el navegador, pero aún no vi nada de eso. Imagino que con Rust se va a poder hacer una integración, ya que Mozilla de hecho entiendo que hace
We're
integración.
just listening to it all day, but we'll cut it off. Okay, so, but in general, everyone's going to stick really close to this, this structure, this highly structured melody. And so we can imagine the band sitting there, everybody has their sheet music, and we've got a band leader, we've got Glenn Miller out in the front, kind of making sure that everybody stays on the same page, literally, on their music. And we need a lot of coordination for this to work. And there's not a lot of room for, you know, if the one trombonist there decides to just go off and do his own thing, it's going to sound really bad. It's not going to work with this structure of music. But by working over things and by experimenting a lot and by starting to experiment with some of the higher intervals of the chords that made up this music, eventually, folks like Charlie Parker and some of his contemporaries were able to finally play this thing that they've been hearing and create a new type of jazz, which came to be known as bebop. It's a very different type of music, right? It's very, it's broken out of a lot of that kind of box that the swing music that we heard before had. So these words that I've been using, faster and complex, asymmetrical, intricate, don't these also sound like the types of words that we use to describe the code we want to be writing and maintaining, the systems that we want to be building as developers? So if you'll allow me the metaphor, we could start to look at our Express app that we wrote before is kind of like a big band. We've got, you know, we've got a couple commands over there in the trombone section. We've got status on the bass there, and we've got we need a lot of coordination to make this work. Wouldn't it be interesting if we could take our commands and turn them into something more like a bebop ensemble, where each of the commands has a little bit more independence, a little more freedom, a little more creativity as possible, and we could get a system that is able to move fast, that we're able to, as developers, move faster with, that we're able to achieve more complexity as our team grows, as our set of commands grow. Wouldn't that be like an interesting way to kind of try something different out there? So this is kind of the goal, that we wanted to change our single Express app and make it something with a little bit more complexity and intricacy, like bebop jazz was in comparison to the big band swing. Now, there's several different ways that we could do this, but at Mapbox, and in this particular Slack commands project, we found a good solution in serverless functions, so that you've only got input in and output out. And we've got no state maintained between calls to that function. It's stateless. So basically, every time we run through that function, it's kind of like we're starting fresh. That business logic is now going to live in separate systems, separate stacks, each of which is going to have a Lambda function. So we've got one Lambda for stats, one Lambda for Yoda, etc., etc. And our app now is really just a router taking in messages and sending them to the right Lambda function, and then getting back the response and ferrying it back to Slack.
So your performance was very unpredictable. Like from one little change to the next, you know, your performance could change drastically, and that's not good. I remember teaching people don't ever use function binding, because it would just be freaking slow. And the reason was because for function binding to be fast at all, parts of it had to be implemented in C++. So basically, when you would call a bound function, it would start in JavaScript, it would execute some code in C++, but since it was now bound, I had to go back to JavaScript to look something up and go back and forth, and I had to cross a boundary. And actually, crossing that boundary was expensive. Actually, also in Node, things happened where people said, okay, this is slow in JavaScript, and then they changed parts and implemented them in C++, and then they realized, oh my god, now it's actually slower because now we're crossing boundaries. So boundary crossing is really expensive, made function binding really slow. The new version of function binding is that doesn't have that problem at all, because it's totally redone, the way it works. And I'm telling you now that there's no boundary crossing involved at all. We learned yesterday about the hidden classes that V8 does. So what may look the same to you does not look the same to V8 necessarily. So even if you have the same properties, but if you assign them in different order, now it's different for V8. To you it might be the same, to V8 it's not. And again, before you do any of that, you should measure, right? First of all, use something like flame graphs to figure out if you have a bottleneck somewhere, and then apply the optimization that you think is one, and then actually measure after that it actually helped you, right? Because you might apply one that doesn't even do anything.
Lo que tratamos de querer hacer es desarrollar soluciones que sean genéricas, reutilizables y que podamos básicamente resolver el problema una sola vez. La historia de cómo llegamos a este tipo de cosas generalmente arranca con una función, porque en JavaScript la unidad mínima de código reutilizable que podemos tener va a ser una función. Entonces, generalmente vamos a darnos cuenta que hay cierto bloque de código que estamos repitiendo múltiples veces, vamos a armar una fracción, llamarlo a una función y ya lo podemos reutilizar. Pero generalmente el proyecto va a crecer y eventualmente una sola función no va a ser suficiente. Entonces, lo más probable es que terminemos con un archivo utils y varias funciones que fuimos identificando como componentes reutilizables. Pero el proyecto sigue creciendo y eventualmente un archivo solo ya tampoco es la mejor opción. Así que lo que calculo que muchos harán es terminar creando un módulo dentro del proyecto en el cual podemos ahora separar las distintas funciones de var en var, de foo en foo. Seguramente tengamos incluso un utils dentro del mismo módulo, pero ahora al menos tenemos un componente reutilizable dentro del mismo proyecto. Y en muchos casos podríamos decir, bueno, hasta acá llegamos, ya tenemos el componente reutilizable totalmente aislado. Y eso sería cierto hasta que arrancamos un siguiente proyecto. En ese momento vamos a querer reutilizar el código y el siguiente paso va a ser seguramente publicar una librería. A lo que quiero ir con todo esto es que cualquiera de nosotros que escriba código con la intención de ser reutilizable está escribiendo una librería, aunque quizá no se lo proponga o aunque no termine publicándola. Porque estas 5 trampas lo que nos permiten hacer es alterar la semántica del lenguaje. Es decir, en momentos en que esperaríamos que, siguiendo la especificación de JavaScript, sucedan ciertas cosas únicamente, tenemos ahora la oportunidad de evaluar código arbitrario y decidir cambiar el comportamiento del lenguaje por completo. Entonces, veamos qué podemos hacer con todo esto. Algo que me pareció a mí interesante es que con esta técnica podemos definir APIs que nos permitan interactuar con paths de objetos nesteados arbitrariamente. Es decir, podemos definir .foo, .var, .hooks, lo que sea, y que esto termine evaluando cualquier función que queramos. Un objeto vivo, es decir, un objeto que al momento en que le asignamos valores, automáticamente los persiste en algún lado, y cuando los leemos, automáticamente los lee de algún lado. En este caso el escrito es un poquito más complejo, no lo voy a leer línea por línea, pero a grandes rasgos tenemos nuevamente una factory de objetos, donde le podemos pasar el path, donde queremos que realmente persista los datos. Cuando la factory inicia, va a leer del disco en este path y poner los objetos en un buffer local llamado data. Y nuevamente vamos a definir las trampas de get y set. En el caso de get, vamos a leer siempre de manera sincrónica de nuestro buffer local. Y en el caso de set, vamos a guardar sincrónicamente en el buffer local, asegurarnos de haber cargado datos del disco y guardarlo al disco. La forma de utilizarlos es igual que antes, simplemente podemos asignar cualquier valor a cualquier path, y en este caso tenemos la garantía de que se va a persistir en el disco. Podríamos adaptar este código para que en lugar de persistir en el disco utilice una base de datos o lo mande a un servidor remoto. Y por último, un ejemplo quizá un poco más forzado, pero que también demuestra hasta dónde podemos llegar con este tipo de técnicas, es: me gustaría mucho poder hacer composición de funciones con un operador, como en lenguajes como Haskell. Bueno, veamos si con proxies puedo. El objetivo acá es llegar a código de este estilo, donde utilizando punto puedo componer funciones.
Esta cita es una cita que me gusta mucho, que es Performance is about the user experience. Esto es del artículo Why Performance Matters de Jeremy Wagner. Si a alguien le interesa performance en general, para mí esto es un artículo esencial a leer. Y bueno, se trata justamente de esto. El usuario pasa por 4 etapas, o sea, hace 4 preguntas, si quieren, las cuales podemos resumir toda su experiencia a través de la carga de la página. ¿Está pasando algo? Hice clic y quizá no pasó nada. Veo una página en blanco, veo un loader, pero me quedé sin internet, no me quedé sin internet. Le ponemos mucho foco a conexiones que quizá no son las más comunes. Uno está acostumbrado a trabajar en un Wi-Fi con conexiones bastante rápidas. Y no siempre, más casi nunca, bueno, depende de la aplicación, pero casi nunca representa la situación real. La siguiente pregunta que se hace el usuario es: bueno, ok, veo algo, ¿me sirve para algo? Que es básicamente cuál es ese contenido particular que el usuario viene a consumir. Y esto es sumamente importante porque no es lo mismo para cada sitio, esto depende de cada sitio. Por último, ya está todo cargado, el usuario puede interactuar con el sitio, pero ¿se siente bien usar nuestro sitio? O sea, ¿se siente como una experiencia de una aplicación fluida o está constantemente interrumpida? Por más que si bien puede usar, todavía se interrumpe con cargas, objetos que siguen apareciendo en pantalla, o lo que sea.
About the balance, I didn't find a balance. I spent a lot of time after work at home. Also, I have a child, but I do not participate in my family life because I have a lot of interesting what I need to do investigate. So, what I found, try to find something interesting for you, and it will be like computer gaming, and you will get a pleasure, so you will enjoy it, and it will be better to you, so you will not be tired. So try something interesting. That's what I mean. And try to be closer to community, communicate with people. If you will be close to community, you will know problems, interesting. You will know on you.
You're working in communities. Is it worth it?
Is it worth it to do all of these things, to spend all of this time? I mean, I think none of us would be sitting up here if we didn't think it was. I think that for me, it's all about kind of making these connections, and so coming out, doing lots of events, doing lots of work. Maybe it's writing blog posts for other people, things like that. Really getting out there and trying new things, trying new technologies it's first of all really fascinating and fun in and of itself, but more importantly for me, it helps build new connections for me between myself and other people who are thinking about problems in different ways, who are approaching things from their point of view. And I think that and also going back to the question of balance, it's like what makes us able as an industry and as a community to advance and to come up with new ideas and to try to push technology further is if we bring ourselves and our unique perspectives as humans, as individuals, and whatever our learnings are from the background we have, the problems we work on, our family experience, our experience in the world, bringing that into our work and bringing our unique voices and talking it over with others and trying to find solutions to problems that we haven't seen before. We really need to be doing that. Like, we need to remember that we are people and not just code writing machines and things like that.
How do you learn new technologies and keep up to date? Do you have any secret that you can share with us?
Well, for the first part, there's a really good way to find that out, which is, do you have an idea? It's going to conferences. So that really helps me to just keep track of everything that is interesting or that is being recently developed. I can tell you how many times I actually saw someone's talk on some new specifications for ECMAScript or some new feature on Node that I was able to actually apply in my personal or work life projects. And that is one of the best ways that I actually know, because since you're watching someone's talk, you can actually, if you're there in a conference, you can make questions to the person that is actually developing it, and that's something that's very unique. You should all take advantage of that. The fact that you're here is something that's really, really valuable. But we can all we can really risk falling into the trap of JavaScript fatigue and stuff. So one thing that I really like doing is just focusing on the parts that I want to try first. Because if you try to do everything at the same time, you're probably not going to get a good grasp of what it actually does.
I think this is a good chance to actually help junior devs or people that want to start contributing to open source projects. You have any side project or any project that you think is a good fit for junior developers?
Well, I do way too many side projects. My favorite one and the latest one is Cloud Boy, that I explicitly wanted to make it easier to people to get into hardware. So you always feel very bad about your side projects because they are simply side projects. You don't have tests, the code is ugly and all that. but trying to and struggling to release them to people to have people see it, and you're always going to feel bad about it, even though people would just would be happy to dive into that mess and hack around it. I'm trying to open source and keep all my side projects open source and deliberately mentoring people. So if you ever want to help me, like if some of you have been to the workshop I did, if you want to like create games in JavaScript and then playing them on tiny microcontrollers, the whole thing is in JavaScript. So if you're interested in that, just find me afterwards or go to cloudboy.org.
Yeah, I think it's important to sort of like stress the fact that you do not have to have a side project. Like, it is a good thing for you to practice code if you want to, but the thing is that I think we have a very toxic culture in our area to think that people should live, breathe, and sleep code. That is not actually true. You can, like, if you already work, good. The work is probably gonna be like taking up 8 hours of your day, so that's probably where you're gonna do the most practicing. So I think it's more important to think of like people who could mentor me and like push me to be even better. Then how can I fill all my free space with code?
If you're here today, or if you're watching this, if it's recorded, and you are a woman or you are just generally a minority in tech, and think about if you like code, if you like tech, if you like this stuff, like think about, just forget everything else, and think about why you like those things, and think about how excited you are, and think about, you know, how hard you've already worked to get here. No one has the right to take that away from you at all. You have the right to be able to keep doing this stuff, and anyone who is trying to take that right away from you is wrong. It's just end of story. It is wrong. If you like this stuff and you're really into it, screw those people, and if they are getting in your way and you've found your community, get them to help you to get them out of your way. And I wish I'd done that earlier.
So if my friend wants to visit my website, they can literally download the index.html file from my computer. And if other people start to visit my webpage, they can also connect to my friend and help host the files that compose my website. So it's a very communal style of transmitting web pages and files. But it's still the web. The Pirate Bay used BitTorrent for sharing files. And while BitTorrent has a reputation for being used to illegally transmit music and movies and other things, it's actually a pretty remarkable piece of technology. When it was created, it made it possible for people with regular devices like laptops and desktop computers to host files directly from their devices. And it might not sound that miraculous, but it actually is, because our devices are not servers. And so the fact that we're able to turn them into server-like devices is, I think, really cool. And it might still seem kind of ambitious to create a new browser, but we decided to do it anyway because we figured Chrome and Microsoft Edge and Firefox were pretty busy with their own efforts, and we wanted to answer this question. And we built Beaker. And like I said, it's an experimental browser. Now, by experimental, what I mean is that we're actually breaking web standards. But we're doing it because we love the web, I promise. We love the web, but we also think that the web is imperfect, and that's okay. But we wanted to see if we could fix some of the imperfections of the web by putting a peer-to-peer protocol in the browser. Firefox actually whitelisted 3 peer-to-peer protocols earlier this year, DAT, IPFS, and Secure Scuttlebutt. And what that means is that a web extension can now hook into these URLs and implement the protocol itself. So it's a very small step, but it's a step in the right direction.
Mark Andreessen left the NCSA and created Netscape, another proprietary browser. This moment is when I look to the web and said that kind of impact, that the incredible work that Andreessen had done to innovate and change the entire face of technology. That's what I want to do. We had things like the yellow page of death. If you had any mismatch tag in a XHTML2 document, the page would just fail. And the underlying structure of our web pages at that time were coming in and out. We were doing new and innovative approaches to constructing those web pages. Those web pages were no longer documents. XML was not the future. Interestingly, around the same time, Ryan Dahl created Node.js. We needed a platform that would enable us to drive those web applications. And Ryan did that work in the open on GitHub. It's one of the first times that a major platform was created from the ground up, and everybody was invited to participate or just observe, which we wanted to keep minimalist at its core so we could grow and expand over time, was enhanced by having a dependency management tool where you could easily pull in dependency and share code. Unfortunately, in 2014, we had a bit of a difference of opinion with the corporate steward of the Node.js project. There were individuals inside the steward organization that wanted to reserve Node for a elite few. That they wanted to take this platform that was growing and changing the face of the technology ecosystem and make it robust by excluding those who didn't reach a perceived bar of participation. We disagreed. That was not Node. Node is fundamentally welcoming, and we seek to actively invite participation from anyone and everyone in the ecosystem. We exist as a project to grow that experience, and we still have to have a responsibility to ship high-quality code. In Node, we achieve that by active participation from folks all across the world. We have more hands, and we have more insight, and together we deliver incredibly high-quality software. In 2015, we were finally able to come back together in a unique moment in all of open source. A fork unforked, and we became Node.js again. Open source, over time, if our implementation is not enough. We need to bring things into open governance so we can ensure that we can continue to access and develop and experiment and explore and fork. Forking is not fundamentally bad. Sometimes we need to take a project in a different direction based on our needs.
Para ustedes por venir, por ser parte nuevamente de este evento. Para mi pana Tincho, que este año me acompañó animando este evento.
Hice lo mejor que pude. No me dijo esto, soy programador y después genial.
Así que bueno, muchísimas gracias y nos vemos